This is my vintage Barbie collection, done in a close to my heart folding book, and probably 1972 to 1979. And then I have a few comparisons to my own life, such as my own car and Barbie's car, and you'll see that kind of reflected throughout the whole thing. In 1979, I got this for a Christmas present from my parents. Let's see here. So then it opens up, and Barbie's about fashion and accessories. And so I've looked at a few things that are published in regards to Barbie. One of them is this poster, and I'm probably about this era of time right here. So here's a few things. And in comparison is my prom dress from 1986. And then that was my favorite dress that I had for my Barbie. This exhibit here was part of the Dior exhibit at the Dallas Museum. It reminded me of a Barbie chest. It was just so cool to look at. And so I kind of recorded it and included it with this album here. Let me open up this page. And I grew up in the Midwest, and I included a smaller version of a scrapbook that I had made of my early history. And I grew up in the Midwest, and of course I've got an allusion to corn here. I've moved and lived several places, but one thing I always go back to is Jesus was my best friend, and I met him at youth camp, and I listened to Christian music. And I have a bit of my testimony on the back of this little record here. Kind of pop that in there. And then, of course, cassette tapes came out. And I think some of the warnings that I had at youth camp kind of apply. But I think, Mattel had a little bit of an agenda. And I'm glad that the Lord tried to help me out there. So one time I have a collection of the Malibu Barbie, and my husband took me to Malibu, and we had a good time. Yeah, there's the corn in the Assembly Hall in Champaign-Urbana. Went to see many a show there, especially Amy Grant and the Barnum Bailey Circus. Okay, so I'll show you the Malibu collection. And it's kind of interesting growing up in Illinois and knowing nothing about Malibu. And so I have a little bit of toys that were left from behind back in time. My Malibu camper and the sleeping bag and the bicycle. And I have a Barbie airplane, and you can see the bike that I got for Christmas, probably back in 1979 or 78, somewhere around there. And then my husband and his jokes with the collection. Anyway, okay. Then this opens up to how, just basically playing house with Barbie. And I had a 1964 plastic house that my grandmother had picked up for me at a garage sale. It was wonderful. And it kind of compares to my house that I had in California a little bit. Same era of time that it was built. And I always liked the classic black dress with the pearl necklace. So there's my house that I had. And then here's that Barbie house. And then my house that I had in Seattle. And my house that I had in Denver. Then kitchen play was fun. So Barbie had her dishes and I had mine. I loved this kitchen. This was so awesome. You would hit the button on the left, the whole thing would go around, and you hit the other button, and then the individual piece would work. Like this was the stove, and it would light up, and the 3 chickens would turn in a 360 degree. And then I tried to mimic the cupboard. So there's Barbie and her dishes, and my kitchen now. This thing had a blue lid that popped up. There we go. So now we come over to the Superstar Barbie, and this was 1979. And I think when I was about 10, there was an opportunity to buy Superstar Ken, and I didn't purchase that doll. Kind of regretted it because she never really had her ideal match until I found him at a flea market in Edmonds, Washington. But I've always had the Superstar Corvette. Of course, it was part of the disco era back then. And this little thing pops up. And it comes back down like this. And let's see here. So this was my house back in the 90s with, I would say, my group of Barbie friends. And then, see, let's Boogie. They had her inflatable furniture. And that slides in there like so. And then, of course, I had my 1970s Barbie townhouse. And I wanted to do the elevator going up and down, and just couldn't quite figure it out scrapbooking wise, but it would have been fun. So let's see here. Then this opens up. Then there's some professional Barbie collectors out there who do some really amazing books. Okay, my Superstar Barbie and my Superstar Ken. And then in the 1970s, we had, of course, the roller rink with the big disco ball. And now it's a church in my old hometown of Paxton, Illinois. Enough interesting to go from the disco scene to being a church. It's awesome. So, remember I was talking about Barbie's Corvette? This is my first car. It was a Plymouth Laser. Then, so there's that. Okay, so this whole thing comes up and it opens up. Oh yes, this thing kind of, it's interesting. We've got Ken's clothes. In 1976, they had the bicentennial Ken outfit. And of course, every girl has to have her career. Well, every woman, every man has to have their own career. And we all become parents some days too. So I did a little scrapbook page of my mothering with my kids. And somewhere in this album, I have Malibu Barbie babysitting the plastic baby that I had for them. But this is my career. I've decided to become a nurse. And the thing is that, you know, my Barbies were put away a lot, and, you know, sometimes life gets put away sometimes. I had to work through COVID as a nurse, and it was not easy. And so, and that fits right in there. You have to see I'm using my bed as a background because this album is so... And I wrote the story about my Barbies right there. Okay, so I had a Barbie airplane. It's a soft plastic that's a bit firm. And then, along with the Malibu date, we flew on the airplane from Concord to Burbank. And I also had a super-sized Barbie back in the 70s. Loved doing her hair and her fashion all the time. So here we are. I've got just a big view here. Then I'll come back down. And, okay. And this part opens up. And there's some more of my Barbie friends, and all of us found our husbands eventually in life. Kind of cute. And then, oh yes, I had the Barbie luggage. That was awesome. Let's see here. Aha, here we go. Okay. So, in the time when I was going to buy Superstar Ken, I chose to get Hawaiian Barbie instead. But you know what I have in life? I have these wonderful friends from Fiji that I dearly adore, and they're great friends to this day. And there's my Barbie kitchen again. And of course I had bought my Barbies at a store called Bergner's in Champaign, Illinois. And this is me and my Christmas loot back in 1972. Let's see here. So it's kind of a vintage toy album at the same time. Okay, so then this folds up. And then this folds down. There we go. And then this folds back in. And then this folds over. And then the back is just kind of plain with, now in the 1970s, the daisy was pretty popular. I would say I kind of contemporized it by using the Gerber daisy on this one. So there you go, my 1972 to 1981 Barbie collection.